Hey everyone, and welcome to From Waterloo to the Alamo. I'm your host, Traci Wilson, and today we have Jennifer Castenson. She is the VP of Public Relations at Buildxact. Jennifer, I'm so glad that you're here with us today. We are doing a virtual podcast with you. So it might look a little different to our viewers and, it might sound a little different to our listeners, but still getting some great content. So Jennifer, first of all, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about your career journey and leadership, right? I know that you've built a 20 plus, year career across marketing and programming, and now you're in the public relations space, and you've built just a really cool environment with the current role that you are in right now. So why don't you tell us a little bit what drew you to this industry and how has your path evolved from, you know, I would say you've been in a lot of interesting leadership roles.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for breaking the protocol to do it. It's very fun to be here. So thanks again. And my history, I didn't go into this industry on purpose. It was not by choice, but by opportunity. I actually was living in Dallas, Texas at the time, and had a roommate who got me a job with a developer, Hillwood Development, which was owned by Ross Pro Jr., and was working there in the PR space with the Alliance Development. If those of you who are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area are probably very familiar with that and all the things that they've done in development aspects. But yeah, so I started there, and I think, staying with the industry is easy to do. The people are super nice. I think there's a great amount of collaboration, but there's also like constant challenge, which for me, and I'm mildly competitive. So like just, always chasing something and also always trying to figure something out and looking at the next opportunity and looking at the next goalpost is super exciting for me. So I love all of that about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been okay, let's talk about your past career. I mean, you were VP of programming, right, at Zonda, and now you're VP of public relations at Buildxact. So, I mean, you've worked at the intersection of, data, media, and, construction technology. So, what skills, or I guess you would say leadership traits, have been most essential in navigating these transitions? Because it's, kind of, I mean, that's a pretty broad background to have.
Yeah. So all of it has to do with marketing communications in some capacity,
Yeah.
but you're right. So I was part of the media, and now I'm serving the media, and I still have media roles, but navigating any transition, whether it's technology or data or whatever, takes, I think, a great amount of patience. It takes authenticity. You have to be true to yourself. You have to be true to the people around you during that transition. Always keeping yourself in mind, who you want to be, how this aligns with your professional goals. It also takes grit and determination. And then I think with the skill that you kind of need is just building bonds. So you need to like create that community of support around yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then leverage that and just keep it strong throughout your career. And even, I mean, I call on other people I think there are two roles that I've had outside of this industry, and I still have relationships with them for various purposes. And I think building those bonds is really important in making
Mm-hmm.
those types of transitions.
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, I guess you've described yourself as someone who likes to, I don't know what your motto would be, but for a lack of a better, official motto that you have, like trying the untried, right? Doing something that hasn't been tried before. Can you give us an example of a time that risk has completely shifted your career or a company trajectory for kind of taking, a step out on the limb?
Sure. So I, I it was kind of fun to me to see this question and think about it. And I think that I try on probably a daily or weekly basis to try something that I have not tried before. So certainly in my mind, I'm always trying to stretch myself a little bit that way. But one big one that is personal is when I moved to Buildxact, and I was going to much more of a startup environment, which was completely new to me, and moving to a software company, which was also completely new to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty ginormous shift. And Buildxact is based in Australia, so there's a lot of change in that regard. So it's kind of a different culture. I know just working remote. I was working remote at Zonda, but then working remote for Buildxact as well is a challenge in itself. But then on top of that, getting into a new industry and a new capacity was pretty hard for me to make the decision and take that leap. But another time we tried something, tried the untried, was when my boss at the time was John McManus at Zonda. And together we launched Hive, which is Housing Innovation Vision Economics. The premise of that was to help drive more affordable housing solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked for a few years and it failed. So it was something that we tried. And we did, it was a lot of people had a lot of passion for it. And actually, there's still a LinkedIn community of Hive out there, and people still join it all the time. But it was something that I still love. And I think it's just a really great idea, but it just didn't work. Maybe it was the time, the moment, but it failed, but it was a great thing to try.
Yeah. Well, and I think so many people are scared to fail, right? I think, it's interesting, even in like this, let's take it from a different, like a sports world, right? Kids today, I think, are so scared to fail or miss a pitch or miss a bat compared to how it was, I don't know, 15 years ago. And I don't know what that is generationally of just people are scared to fail. But I think there's a reason why there's failure, right? I feel like you're not going to ever grow from something if you can't learn from it, right? And sometimes those are your biggest aha moments is when you fail from something. So good for you for always trying something that you haven't tried before. And sometimes the risk is incredible and sometimes it's not so good. So
hello, my name is Macias Bragança, General Sales Manager at Mack Haik Ford Lincoln, your #1 Ford dealer in Central Texas. We are here for all your automotive needs, Ford, Lincoln, pre-owns, all year makes and model. If we don't have it, we'll find it. You won't find anybody that will work as hard as I will to earn your business. Thank you for making us #1 in Austin, Texas.
Hey, I'm Brandon Sparks with Nautilus Lending, based right here in Central Texas. We're a full-service mortgage operation and brokerage, serving Greater Texas as well as Florida and Tennessee. One of the greatest things about our shop is our ability to facilitate creative financing. What that means is that anything legally possible, we can get it funded. You want to find out more? Reach out to us, www.nautiluslending.com. That's www.nautiluslending.com.
Well, it's interesting because now the school my kids are in actually communicates to the parents to back off a little bit, let their kids be independent, let them fail on their own and learn from their own mistakes. And, they have that as part of their curriculum as well, to have the teachers let them fail as well, and then to encourage that. So I think it is something, just to your point, something that we need to be comfortable with.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the built environment and innovation. Okay, so you have such an incredible knowledge of the built environment. What trends are you most excited about shaping the future of housing, construction, and real estate?
Oh.
I'm like, is that a E excited or E?
Well, I geek out about all this stuff. So I'm excited about anything that's new and different. Bottom line, there just isn't enough of it that fits in the kind of the socially acceptable that we have, or the code acceptable frameworks that we have created for housing. But with that being said, I would say top of my list is that I'm excited about the intersection of housing and health. So looking at biophilia, biophilic design, wellness, how all of those things, I mean, there are case studies out there that to me, they're mind blowing. And I've been in this space for a long time, and they're still like, cancer patients who have different access to nature, or the way the room is designed, or the way the house is designed, help somebody from, healing perspective, and advances with asthma, and all these other things are just due to the built environment. And if we were, just a little bit smarter about how we're looking at our homes and be able to provide housing, I don't think people make that sort of correlation when they're thinking about having a healthy economy. But man, if we did that, the economic impacts would be ginormous. But so like I said, just that health and wellness aspect. And then I'm also really excited about the potential of offsite construction. So how can we make development more efficient with robotics, automation? I see a lot of that happening right in Texas. And it was just at the Industrialized Construction Conference in Austin. Fornitos is creating some amazing systems. Amherst is there, and they have this huge factory that's right in your backyard. So a lot of exciting things happening right there in the Texas space. And I think that will have huge implications in the next few years.
So when you say offsite construction, you mean like being able to build homes offsite and then be able to place them on a slab?
Sure. So it can be a home or a panel, like what we call SIPs, is structured insulated panels. So it's either the panel or a module. Like a lot of companies are just doing a module, and some of them, one of the other companies I just spoke with, Home Nation, they're creating one module that has all of the MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing in it. And which, if by doing that, they can place that module on the foundation and then build the rest of it with way fewer trades, and expedite it way more efficiently, higher quality work. But just creating that module that has all the MEP in it is creating massive efficiencies and higher quality work. And it's easy to transport to the job site and all those things.
So pieces of the construction, because you could also say like you're losing that human aspect of someone physically like making sure, but it's cool that it's like pieces of it.
It can be pieces. It can be the whole house too. Right. It can be the whole house, the parts of it, or panels of it. And then the human element happens offsite as well, because it still needs to be inspected the same.
Right.
So the inspectors come to the factory instead of going to the job site.
Well, that's good. I feel like that's also probably a quality control, because a lot of these builders don't always have the same trades, and, quality of work is not always able to be seen before the product's created. So That's probably another big aspect of it. Okay. So you've worked closely with, leaders across multiple different verticals. Where do you see the strongest opportunities for cross collaboration?
So I think if you look at all the different stakeholders within the ecosystem of a project, and there's so many different people that are involved in just one project, but there's probably not one that couldn't be better off using more collaboration. But maybe the richest opportunity would be with the architect and the rest of the team. Because if you are able to coordinate upfront on the design, and it would definitely ease the process with purchasing, the builder, aligning the schedule and the trades, change orders. So, and then of course there, I'm just thinking about like the people who are actually in the physical project, but then if you're able to ease some of the relationships with the public officials for permitting and all those things. So I think upfront with the design would probably help the most with all of those pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a good perspective on that too. Okay. So let's talk a little bit how PR can kind of come into, play here with, the industry is becoming way more tech enabled, right? So what do you think the role of PR is going to play in the whole storytelling aspect of getting people to adopt these new solutions?
Sure. So I would say with or without technology, storytelling is still a huge asset to adopting innovative practices.
Right.
Now the challenge is just doing the storytelling well to be entertaining and valuable. So the authenticity has to be there. And then I think also to get people to believe, you have to have quantifiable data and especially with the audience that we're talking about. So if we're talking about builders adopting an innovation, they're really, really risk averse. They have to get financing at certain times. They have to, they have to appease so many different people within the process. They're super risk averse, and they're building things that are very capital intensive. So you have to have that data set that helps them believe and it quantifies it for them. And then those are the critical points to drive innovation at scale. So the authenticity, quantifiable data. But in housing, where so much is local, the story has to be localized and then generalized for broader adoption. So I think that's part of the issue, is that if you're driving a successful case study in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the things that I just shared about missing middle housing, you can't just duplicate it in Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do something or show a way that it's applicable to other marketplaces.
Right, right. Well, I mean, you would probably have, be considered to have a pretty good opinion on things, because I know that you are a contributing writer to Forbes. So, with you being able to have a voice at a national level, how has that influenced, yourself as a thought leader in the housing and construction industry? Because that's a big deal to be a contributing writer to Forbes, right? Because that's a very well-known, publication that has big, accolades and significance. So how has that affected you in your community here?
Sure. So the visibility through Forbes has definitely helped build my brand. If you can call it that, I even say it, I feel like a dork saying that, but yeah. So the cool part to me is that I'm able to share what amazing innovators share with me.
Right.
And give them access to more people or influencers or investors, and make those others aware of what those innovators are doing, and then get them involved in some capacity. So I think that for me, it's just a medium. And fortunately, it does have some brand swagger to get people to pay attention, but getting stories out there that are significant for the advancement and improvement of housing is beneficial to everyone, hopefully. And hopefully in the work that I do, and sharing those stories out makes the connections that makes them possible to advance at scale, because it's so hard to scale things in the housing industry that we've created that has these really dominant production builders. It's hard to scale innovation. So it's really kind of, it's certainly a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. I love how you said brand swagger. I'm going to start using that. Brand swagger. Forbes, you have brand swagger. I love it. According to Jennifer, it's a great term. Okay, so when you're writing for a very broad audience, how do you balance, your technical aspects of the industry with, I would say the human stories that are going to resonate the most, right? How do you make it palatable for people to understand?
Sure. So I'm sure that's difficult, but with my writing in particular, the couple people that read it are only industry based. So I'm writing just B2B, and that is certainly my focus. I don't write to consumers. For Buildxact either, we don't talk to consumers. We sell B2B. In order to, I'm going to say, kind of dumb it down, there are a lot of people that I talk to, I have to ask them to dumb it down for me.
Yeah.
And then that helps me explain it to an audience. So I always ask people to slow down and teach me at a level that they'd be talking to their like third grade child, because I do want people to understand that are outside of that whatever box that they have set for themselves. Like last week, I was talking to somebody who's Anthony Good, who's working on a fabulous offsite project that's in Los Angeles, and he's actually doing affordable housing without subsidies. And I had to ask him to slow down, I would say at least 3 times to explain it to me in a more elementary way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I'm going to use that when I'm writing, mostly so that even people within the industry can understand, like the investors or, other people who would be interested in getting involved in this project.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's super important. It has to, you have to make the connection with someone. I always say, put in layman's terms for me, so.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's talk about culture, teams, and growth. Okay. So you've led marketing and PR teams. You already know you have an incredible, career background in that. What are the keys to building a culture of, creativity and accountability in such a fast changing industry?
Yeah. So, to be fair, I would have to say that we're not really in fast changing. I wish we were in more fast changing industry, but I think that some of the things that we use, like the technologies we use, are fast changing.
Right. Aspects of it are changing very quickly.
Absolutely. Yes. So I think that in order to do that, it's more about understanding their process. I have even a couple people in teams that reported to me in my head when I say that, understanding their process and then giving them the space to run that process. So, and then being able to check in because I know how they're doing their work. But when we're talking about being in our industry, change is pretty slow or very slow. The thing that is changing fast are kind of the dynamics around how people receive information, how and where we are marketing products. Not only do the mechanisms change frequently, but so do the rules. Like Google Ads changes their rules on a regular basis on how they're doing SEO and how they're measuring things. And so I think that, and how the pros that we speak to at Buildxact, like the custom home builders and the remodelers, are using their devices differently and using communicating with consumers differently. And so we have to pay attention to those things. And then we have to also know, just to your point, is how consumers are digesting information, so that we can help pros do that and guide them a little bit, because that's not their forte. They holding a hammer and being on site is their strong suit. So we have to kind of take that out of their hands and help guide them through that process too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I would say, we were just talking to the VP of advertising at the Austin American-Statesman, and we talked about the days where you put out an open house ad in the paper and people had to look at open houses there. The way you buy a house is pretty much the same, right? I mean, you go, you tour it, you look at all the seller's disclosure. I mean, everything is pretty much the same on how you purchase a house, but the way we see what's available, what's on the market, all of that stuff has changed so much. So it's huge, right? To be able to evolve in a world that is changing how you see a product, right? Versus, the actual building, like we said, the building process itself is still pretty much, the same.
Well, actually, yesterday or the day before, Wall Street Journal put out the story that was about how that process is changing too, because people are actually asking for an experience and doing sleepovers in the house before they buy it.
Yeah.
They're
It's
sleeping there
crazy.
for a number of days. Isn't it wild?
It is wild. And it's like, but then I also think that, and this is just my personal opinion, I think that just shows from a real estate standpoint, the real estate market right now, right? I think
Yeah.
people are willing to do whatever it's going to take to sell that product. So I think
Yeah.
there's a little bit of that in there from just my personal standpoint. If someone really wants to sell a house, come sleep in the house. Because if you send me an offer in 5 days, it's worth it to let you sleep and spend the night in the house for 2 days and whatnot. But
I mean, you have to think it's your biggest purchase decision. Why wouldn't you want to try it out?
100%, 100%. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's almost like, oh, can I have like a deposit for the night? I want to make sure you don't damage
Exactly.
anything. But yeah.
They did say that some people are charging for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably worth it. And then if they buy the house,
Yeah.
I'd say I'll put that towards your purchase price. I don't know. You
Exactly.
could get creative with it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's look back at your work at Organized Living, which I'm not quite sure what you did there, but I know that you played a key role there. Where that's essentially where I think you led strategy and you grew sales, but what lessons from that period still guide you to how you're going to approach leadership today? Because I feel like that was a pretty pivotal moment for you.
Yeah, I think the most important thing while I was there was discovering my leadership style.
Mm.
And I learned that in a number of different ways. And I learned it from some of the people I worked with at the time. What they were doing influenced me in ways that I wanted to emulate, and then in ways that I wanted to make sure I did not repeat. So I think that there's different, I think you always learn that, right? You're always looking at, I want to be a leader like that. I don't want to have a leadership style like that. So I think being there almost a decade, I was responsible for a number of different job roles and a number of different personality types, from graphic designers to product development. And that was, I learned from the people, I got direct input from the people who reported to me, and that helped me understand how to define my leadership style. And then I also had a personal coach for a little bit, which I think is also really important. I think, choosing a mentor and having a coach and looking at opportunities and embracing opportunities to improve yourself are all very important.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's just, it's taking care of yourself as just, I think, a human being, because you also need someone to talk to, right? To say, hey, is this the right strategy? Is this not the right strategy? I also think, feedback is huge, right? From your people that you're managing, right? And leading. So let's talk about, we actually kind of touched on this a little bit about how the construction and housing sectors are, we're facing some affordability issues and supply challenges. What do you think are the boldest solutions that are going to be needed over the next, let's say, decade to try to fix that?
Sure. I get to hear these ideas all the time. So I have that as kind of an advantage on this, but I would, after hearing a lot of different ideas, I think one of the most successful and with the biggest potential is public-private partnerships. So local leaders taking a role alongside builders and developers to offer solutions. And we also need to allow for innovation, which means changing the way that things are financed and how they are financed with comps in the industry. It is and will continue to be very valuable to open the door to new solutions, because what we're currently doing isn't working and we can't use the comps that we currently have in the industry. So we've got to change that formula and be a little bit more open to innovation entering in, and be a little bit more flexible with policies and codes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do you think for you? Because you've had, just a very fruitful career at, all the different experiences you got to have. What do you think has been your most, let's say, rewarding project or moment that made you think, this is why I love what I do? There has to be one or more, but tell me about one.
Actually, for me, I have these moments all the time. I already talked about how I geek out and everything. So I really enjoy the people that I work with at Buildxact and outside the company. And every time I have a call with someone and learn something new, I'm reminded how much I love what I do. And every time I publish something and share it out and see the reaction from the audience, I love that too. Yeah, I did a story about Sola Impact, and they are actually providing ADUs, accessory dwelling units, to people who lost their homes in the fire in LA. And they sent me a video yesterday of the person that they just gave the first ADU to. And she is a resident, that 40, I think it's 47, 49-year resident of the area. She lost her home. They gave her the ADU while they're rebuilding things. She, it was like, so, I mean, I was just watching this video, ridiculously touched, emotional. And she gets to have this ADU now to live in. And then when her home's rebuilt, she gets to have it as an income, revenue in her backyard. So it's a dual benefit for her on an ongoing basis. And it's just incredible that things like that are happening.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Well, and it's cool too, because I mean, you probably get to see the impact that what you do is having on people all over the world, right? It's not, I mean, you are out there probably helping, it's what you do, right? You help provide the information from B2B to businesses. You're in this industry. You get to see how things are evolving, and it's literally things that are going to help people, right? Like this sweet woman who got this ADU in a time of urgent need. So it just kind of is cool to where you are in your career that you get to see these things happen, right?
it is. It's touching.
Yeah. Oh, it has to be. Okay. So for rising professionals, what's your advice to them? I mean, like I just mentioned, you've carved out a career that has created enormous impact, right? What would be your advice to them to kind of push through those leadership roles and how they can excel with whatever career path they're on?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely what I was touching on before is finding a mentor.
Yep.
Finding someone who can give you encouragement and advice. I'm a big believer in sort of that 360 review process, where you're finding people who are your peers, inside and outside the organization, above you, to give you feedback on a regular basis, and asking for it, and then being actionable about it. You can't just listen to it. You have to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think even if you disagree, and I've had times that I have not really agreed with the feedback I've gotten from somebody, dig deeper. You have to understand why someone's giving you that feedback. I've actually brought it home to my family. It's not easy to do because my family's pretty harsh with me. And I asked them, I go, this person said this about me. What do you guys think? And then, months of therapy later, I was able, but
good.
It's good to bring it to somebody who you trust,
mm-hmm.
and, ask them for critical feedback. And I think that if you bring it to somebody you trust, you can also know they're going to be, one, authentic with you, but then two, put it in a way and help you and support you if it's something hard for you to digest or hard for you to go through.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love your comment about try to dig deeper. Like if you don't agree with someone's feedback, they're clearly coming up with that for some reason, right? So is there something else that maybe you're doing? I love that you said that. Dig deeper and see, if there is something that you can work on that you may not fully agree on. Because you're right. I think people they can't take constructive criticism, right, very well. If you want to even call it that. I love that you said feedback. But I think it's important, if you want to be a good leader, you are going to have to fall on the sword a couple times in order to get back up and improve. Well, Jennifer, this was so great. I mean, is there anything else you want to like tell us people about Buildxact? And I mean, you really didn't even say much about what you do at or what exactly Buildxact does as a company. So I think it's important for people to know that. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about the company itself that you are currently working for?
Of course, I'd love to. So Buildxact is a construction project management software, and it's a platform where that is aimed at small to medium business size owners who are contractors, remodelers, custom home builders, and can use it for everything from pre-design to final invoice, including estimates, takeoffs, scheduling, coordinating with homeowners, coordinating with suppliers, direct links to suppliers. So it's very, very robust, and it allows those users to spend more time on the job site and to spend less time in the office or behind a computer screen. We have very new and awesome AI powered features for the takeoffs, the estimates, and estimate review. And I'd love to show that to anyone or share that with anybody. So thank you for letting me talk about Buildxact. It's a really cool company, really good culture, and growing fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like you guys are really changing, the productivity, of course, of these businesses that are using your software. I mean, I remember when we were building our house, we used Buildertrend, but just of what you've said, I would have loved that, I want my contractors more on the job site building the house versus what we had to do with that software that we were using. So it really seems like you guys are changing the game for that. And that is such a huge process for the consumer that's using it. I know you really are B2B with what you guys do, but as a consumer, that product is key in any one of those processes if you are on the other end of a custom home build. So it being able to be innovative and easy to use and do all the things that you just said, that's huge. So hopefully if no one's heard of it or is thinking of switching to a product, hopefully people will consider, Buildxact for that reason. But I do love that you came on here and you with your extensive knowledge and expertise in this industry, it was really great to hear kind of what you had to say and to hear kind of what you see coming up on the horizon, because this industry is never going to go away. I would say buying a home, like you said, is the most important thing somebody does. But, it is probably going to be one of the biggest investments somebody does. So it is something that is going to be here for the long haul, but it is cool to see what is changing and what's to come. So thank you for your insight on that. And it was really great to sit down and talk to you today, Jennifer. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, you too. You have a great day. And that's all we got. Thanks for listening.